सो लेट्स मूव ऑन, ठीक है, डिस्कशन ऑन टाइम, ठीक है। टाइम इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट, सर हमेशा ये कर देते हैं। तो बिकॉज मेरे पास इशू हो रहा होता है बैठ के, बेसिकली मेरे पास बफर आ जाता है, राइट। सो लेट्स से आपके आपसे पहले मेरी क्लास है, तो वहाँ पे डिस्कशन में थोड़ा टाइम लग जाता है बैठ के, तो वो लेट हो जाता है, ठीक है। सो टाइम इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ठीक है, केयर अबाउट इट। अच्छा जी, सो ये मेरे हैंडल से क्या हो गया भाई, लेट मी फिक्स। सो व्हाट इज टाइम, कैन यू टेल मी टाइम क्या है भाई? व्हाट इज टाइम एंड हाउ डू यू मेजर इट? व्हाट इज टाइम? Don't just read the stuff and tell me the answers. So basically, time is basically measured in seconds, right? So it's the interval of time. So let me just, time is, it's basically interval of measuring the elapsed duration, right? So hota kya hai? Let's imagine if I can take you guys to the point where the universe was born. Okay, let's go back further generations away. So let's imagine you were this was basically the point of Big Bang, right? So what is Big Bang? Big Bang is the point where basically everything was found, right? Poof, a blast and everything came into being. Okay. So everything basically exploded and it is basically accelerating in this direction, right? Every universe, every galaxy, okay, every planet, every star basically is basically incrementing, right? So यहाँ पे time was zero, right? So now as the universe expanded, the time began. Okay. So if you guys want to basically have an interesting fact, time is a dimension in space. What do I mean by that? Okay, if you want to locate a star, if you want to locate a galaxy, let's say this is the sun and this is Mother Earth. Okay, and this is Mother Earth over here. If you want to, let's say, locate, let's say, some any other planet, let's say if you want to locate Saturn, right? So you would have to basically also fix the point of time. Okay, because when you're looking at, let's say if you're looking through a telescope, अभी अपने छत पे बैठ के you're looking at the moon, so you're looking some seconds into the past, right? Because time is also moving in space. As you go to the right, time is also basically changing. सही है. So just to keep it on simple terms, time is basically a unit which is invented by us for the earth, so it's measured in seconds, right? So यहाँ पे time has a different definition in space. Okay. So just to keep it simple, time is basically measured in seconds, and we use clocks, watches, okay, and pendulum clocks to measure time. Okay. So days, how do we basically measure days? Okay, let's say we cannot measure time in days because day is not the standard system in the entire world of us. Okay. So we have a fixed definition, the SI unit of time, that is seconds. So we know कि 365 days कितने होते हैं हमारे पास? We know कि there are 24 hours in one day, and in 1 hour we know कि there are 60 minutes, and we know कि in 1 minute we have 60 seconds, right? So to convert the days into seconds, we want to multiply it by 24 first, and then multiply by 60, and then multiply by 60 over here, convert the entire duration of days into seconds, right? So we want to keep everything to be standard. That is why we have the SI base unit system for every. We have 7 base units. Okay, uske we have 7 base units, and we want to keep things standardized. Okay, that is why we don't measure time in days. Okay, we measure in seconds. Okay, and what we can do, we can basically use stopwatch, clocks, pendulum clocks. Okay, standard stopwatches basically measure time. ठीक है. So if you want to keep it simple, let's say मैं अभी आपको पढ़ा रहा हूँ बैठ के, 1 घंटे बाद आप सब let's say you're watching movie, right? So I am teaching you guys, that is event A. ठीक है. Let me just insert a blank slide. Event A क्या है मेरे पास? सर खुजामा teaching. teaching some boring stuff. Okay. Okay. And then we have event B. That is, you guys are watching movie, right? It's a Sunday, obviously. You're gonna watch a movie. Okay. So we have two events. The duration between these two events is called time, right? Let's say after let's say 1 hour, going to go from event A to event B. Okay. So that is basically time. Second, I have something very interesting stories, but I don't want to share at the moment because you guys will be confused. कि सर क्या बोल रहे हैं, टाइम ट्रेवल आ गया, ये आ गया, वो आ गया. ठीक है. Just to keep it simple, if you have event A, if you have event B, the duration between these two events is called time. And how do we measure time? The SI unit of time is basically seconds. ठीक है. And how do we measure it? How to measure it? Yes, Khadija, how do we measure time?
We measure time by using clocks, pendulums, and stopwatches.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So we use basically stopwatches, pendulum clocks, or quartz crystal clocks. Okay. Or just keep it a stopwatch, right? Measure time over here. सही है. So a stopwatch has an accuracy of basically precision of 1 second or 0.1 second. ठीक है. So if you basically are measuring time using a stopwatch, there might be some errors also. ठीक है. So whenever you're measuring something, हर quantity के अंदर we have uncertainty, वो error होता है हमारे पास. ठीक है. Let's say if you're measuring some length, you have parallax error. ठीक है. If you're measuring some time, you would have human reaction time. ठीक है. And what is human reaction time? These are all the terms which can pop in your practical exams. ठीक है. So make notes. I would say कि make notes while I'm giving lecture, right? So let's say if you have experiment, this is your race over here. This is the finish line, right? This is the finish line over here. And let's say Abdullah is running a marathon, right? This is Abdullah over here. And Abdullah basically finishes. And let's say there's a person standing over here who is basically having a stopwatch, right? This is the stopwatch over here. Imagine this is not an Apple stopwatch, okay? I was a student of Picasso, right? He taught me pretty great drawings, okay? So stopwatch basically when it starts and stops the stopwatch ना, तो हमारे brain क्या करता है? हमारा brain basically sends the signal to the hand कि start कर दे stopwatch. ठीक है. So this duration from ordering the hand to start the stopwatch till it reaches and does the thing, it takes some time. ठीक है. Because we have a human brain and it takes some time to process and do the stuff. That is called human reaction time. ठीक है. So we have one source of error in this. That is called what? Human reaction time. ठीक है. It can vary from what? It can vary from 0.1 second to 0.3 seconds. If you are younger, ठीक है, तो it is pretty small for younger people. If you have pretty old people in the marathons, ठीक है, they are gonna take more time to basically start the stopwatch and stop, ठीक है, and stop the stopwatch, ठीक है. So yeah, I'm not making fun of them. I respect the elders, ठीक है. Don't take me wrong. ठीक है. So it depends upon the age. Obviously, as you age, your mind basically your processing slows down, and it is just a scientific value. मैंने कुछ काम मुझे बताया नहीं. So yeah, respect everyone. Don't just say कि सर मजाक करते हैं. So yeah, so we have one experiment which is used to measure time periods. So ये आपने देखा होगा labs के अंदर. So इसके अंदर this basically comes in your exams. Let's say you have a pendulum setup. How do you measure times? Okay, the time period for one oscillation. Okay. So can anyone tell me? Does anyone have an idea कैसे करते हैं? How do we measure time period using a pendulum? Anyone? Give me a guess. You have the apparatus over here. आपके पास retort stand है. आपके पास एक clamp लगा हुआ है, ठीक है? So you have this retort stand. You have the clamp over here. जो उसको basically support कर रहा है and it's keeping thread together. You have a string over here. You have a metal pendulum bob, ठीक है? And it's basically passing between point A and point B. Can anyone tell me how do we measure time period for one oscillation pendulum? Give me a guess. Come here, correct or wrong? I am not going to judge you.
Sir,
Yes.
The pendulum bob goes from point A to point B while we have the stopwatch and we start and stop it.
Mhm.
We do it like 3 to 4 times and we divide the time taken and yeah,
Good.
and the times we did it.
Good. Good. Perfect. ठीक है. मुश्किल नहीं, आसान है. ठीक है. Speak up in the class. ठीक है. That is pretty good. I might give bonus marks for the people who are speaking in the class, which might appear in your tests. Okay. So up that, as Khadija said, okay, let's imagine we have a pendulum, right? We have, let's say, a pendulum. Let me just imagine कि ये fixed support है हमारे पास. And this is the pendulum over here, and the pendulum goes from point A to point B. Right? This is point A, and it goes from here till this particular point B, right? So it basically, let's say, as it swings, okay, it's going to come to point B and point A and then B, right? We're going to have this sort of oscillations. Okay. So let's say we are starting from point B. हमने अपना point B को बनाया reference. This is our reference over here. Okay. So what is the algorithm over here? As soon as it basically leaves B, we're gonna start the stopwatch, right? Start the stopwatch as it leaves point B, right? And as soon as it comes back, this is one oscillation, right? So gonna keep counting at least 10 oscillation, right? So count a period for 10 oscillations. What is the oscillation? It's just a to and fro movement, right? B से A पे गई, A पे वापस B पे आ गई, one oscillation, right? So we're going to keep on counting. Say B से A, then B, one count. Keep it rotating. B to A, then B, two oscillations, then so on and so forth till it completes 10 oscillations, right? And then we're gonna do what? We're gonna take average for one oscillation. ठीक है. तो आप क्या करेंगे बैठ के? You can make a table. You can make a table over here, right? That is basically the experiment number, S number. Can just take, let's say, 3 readings. ठीक है. This is the period for 10 oscillation. ठीक है. Period for 10 oscillation, and this is the average period for one oscillation. Let's say ये आपने पहले दफा experiment किया and you took 10 ratings for the oscillations. It came out to be, let's say, 32 seconds, 32.47 seconds. And it came out to be 31.42 seconds. It came out to be 30.5 seconds, right? And if you do divide by 10, it's going to be 3.247. It's going to be 3.142. It's going to be 3.050 seconds, right? Now you have these 3 readings over here with you for one oscillation. Now you can take another average. Okay. So how would you find the final average? The final reading, let's say FR. So your FR is going to be basically what? 3.247 plus 3.142 plus 3.05 divided by 3. To be more precise, right, we are removing basically increasing accuracy by taking averages. So final rating is going to be the following. It is 3.247 plus 3.142 plus 3.05 divided by 3. So it's coming out to be 3.15. Okay. And we are basically assuming that my stopwatch की accuracy is 0.01 seconds. Right? This is the least count of a stopwatch. That is why we are leaving the answer in 2 decimal places. Right? अब आप किससे क्या आ गई है? The time period for basically one oscillation. We also find the frequency. Right? And what is frequency? Let me tell you that. So you know what is the time period for one wave, for one oscillations on average. आपने बहुत सारे average लिए हैं, तो you have very precise accurate answer. ठीक है? That is 3.15 seconds. ठीक है? So now if you want to find the frequency, what is frequency? Anyone tell me what is frequency?
Number of times.
Yeah. So number of times your basically your pendulum oscillates in 1 second. ठीक है? So it's the reciprocal of the time period. ठीक है? कि 1 सेकंड में आपका जो पेंडुलम है वो कितनी ऑसिलेशन करता है, ठीक है. So it's basically the inverse of a time period. So if you want to find frequency, it's going to be 1 upon 3.15, and it's going to be basically something in points. So आपके pendulum की frequency is basically 0.32 hertz, right? In 1 seconds, it complete 0.32 seconds, right? So मतलब 8 second के अंदर it is going till here, ठीक है. This is half, so it's going till here, 8 second अंदर, ठीक है. Since the time period is 3.15 seconds, it's huge. Okay, so it's these are not practical values. These are just uh, basically assumed values. Okay, because my experiment actually can. So yeah, this is the meaning of frequency. Does that make sense to you guys? How do you do the experiment and measure time period using a pendulum? How do you find its frequency?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, good. Okay. हाँ, now we had systematic errors over here, right? उससे पहले we had human reaction times that was basically introduced by us. We had parallax error that was also due to humans, right? By taking measurements. Now we have something called systematic errors. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between, let's say, an error introduced by us versus the error introduced by the apparatus? It's systematic errors. I just average. Give me a tukka. Tukka would work. I want Abdullah to answer this question. ठीक है. कौन बनेगा करोड़पति में, आपको स्वागत है अब्दुल्ला. तो इट्स अ क्वेश्चन फॉर बिलियन ऑफ डॉलर्स, ठीक है. एंड द ऑडियंस इज वाचिंग यू, आई एम वाचिंग यू, पाकिस्तान इज वाचिंग यू, ठीक है. वी वांट द आंसर फ्रॉम अब्दुल्ला. अब्दुल्ला, व्हाट्स द डिफरेंस बिटवीन सिस्टमैटिक एरर्स and errors introduced by humans, like human error, parallax error? It's literally written over here. Okay, just skim it out and just tell me in your own words. Abdullah, I want to hear your voice. Abdullah can type out in the chat if you are shy. Abdullah is speaking up. Yes. Abdullah, I cannot hear you. Am I audible to you guys?
Yes.
ठीक है, I am audible. अच्छा, I guess Abdullah is trying to say, and I believe Abdullah is saying some correct things. Abdullah, I trust you. ठीक है. So systematic errors वो होते हैं जो basically introduce होते हैं from the instruments, right? So let's say you are taking a measurement, right? You're taking a measurement using this half meter rule, ठीक है. And you want to measure कि ये point P कितना ऊपर है टेबल से, right? And for this you're using half meter rule. But what are you observing over here? You're observing कि ये already start नहीं हो रहा zero से. It's not starting from zero. It has some x unknown length which is up from the table, right? So this is, let's say your scale is giving you 5.9 centimeters, right? But this extra thing is basically adding up, right? So it's not the actual, right, the height which is given by the half meter rule to you at the moment, right? So this error which is introduced by the apparatus is called systematic. ठीक है. अब what you can do for this? So your actual answer is what? आपका जो रीडिंग आई है ना 5.9 सेंटीमीटर, वो कहाँ से आएगी? वो बेसिकली यहाँ से आता है. That is from basically here, from here till here. ठीक है. So you have this extra thing which is unknown to you, that is x centimeters. Your actual answer for the height of P above the table should be the following, right? Actual answer is 5.9 centimeter plus some x centimeter which is unknown to you. Let's say this x is coming out to be, let's say, 0.6. So you have 5.9 plus 0.6. So your actual answer is basically 6.5 centimeters. So this x, this uncertainty which was introduced by your scale is called basically systematic. Okay. This type of zero error is known as systematic error over here. Why is it called zero error? Because the scale, the zeros of the scale is not aligned with the bench over here, right? So if this zero is over here, there is no zero error over here. ठीक है. We also see in Monday calipers and micrometers screw gauge. These are basically two instruments used to measure the length. उसके अंदर भी होता है हमारे पास zero error, right? We will see what is that zero error. So a half meter rule has a zero at the end of the rule, so can be used without introducing systematic error. Okay, so let's say this was a meter rule. Okay, so instead of this, you can use a half meter rule. उसके अंदर zero हमारे पास align होता है from the starting point. ठीक है, तो उसमें error आएगा नहीं. So when using a ruler to basically find out the height, the ruler must be held vertically, right? ऐसा ना हो कि आपकी let's say this is the point which you want to measure, and you're putting the scale like this. Right? So this is also going to give you a wrong reading. Right? This is not right over here. This is also called as systematic error. Right? So if the ruler is at an angle over here, so a systematic error is introduced. Again, the instrument is basically giving you a cause of error over here. So these sort of errors should be known by you guys whenever you're answering present practical questions. Okay. So these can pop up in your ATP questions, and also your paper 2 also. Okay. So theory के end question आ जाता है बैठ के. So state the type of error which can be introduced in this experiment. ठीक है. So 90% वो पैरेलल एरर होगा या फिर आपके पास वो सिस्टमैटिक एरर होगा. उसके अलावा कुछ और नहीं होता.